I have been blessed to have known you all. Thank you for your friendships, your acts of kindness, great and small. You made it all worthwhile. That was the closing blessing I offered at Sam's memorial service. They are his words. Sam is not his real name. 2.5 years earlier, I had picked up my phone. Hello, my name is Sam. I have cancer. Would you do my memorial service? And so it began. Sam wrestled with the big questions about the nature of reality even before the diagnosis. His wrestling was powerful, tangible, redemptive, real. Sam was filled with the spirit of life. He loved his life. In the face of this cancer, he was heroic. He was compassionate. He just wanted to get to 50. And when he qualified for new chemo, he made it. Celebrated his 50th. And one day he came in and asked me, why me? I did everything right. I never smoked, I ate right. I have a family I love my life. Why me? I told him that was Job's question to God. And Sam asked, did God answer him? Yes, I said. What did God say to Job? Where were you when I made the heavens? Where were you when I laid the earth's foundations? Have you ever commanded the day to break, assigned the dawn its place? He wept. I waited. Job is one of the biblical books of wisdom. The books of wisdom are about human beings trying to understand experience, reality, Psalms, Proverbs, Koheleth, Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs, and Job. These works chronicle the human experience, invite us to understand ourselves, how to endure this world with integrity, embrace our lives, grow a heart of wisdom. As I said before, as Houston Smith wrote, Religion Alive invites human beings on the great adventure to confront reality and master the self. Much of what I will preach this morning is a thank you to a theologian, Ellen Davis, with whom I studied these books. So here is some of my takeaway on Job. And you should know it's awesome theater. First, think of God as metaphor, personified for dramatic effect. And in the preamble, the curtain pulls back and we meet God and the adversary. In the Hebrew text, it's Ha-Satan, the tester, the adversary, Satan. God says, have you seen my servant Job? He is all about me. He loves me, praises me, makes sacrifices to me, and lives an upright life. And the adversary says, what's not to love? He's got everything a human being could ask for. Don't go bragging about Job. Take away his good fortune. He's going to complain. Say, God, I have an idea. I'll make you a wager. Are you willing to bet on Job? So God and Satan wager on Job. God bets that there is at least one human being who will keep loving God in the face of disappointment, catastrophic loss, family, wealth, and eventually health. And the adversary wagers that Job, when he loses his successful life, when the chips are down, what's going to come out of his mouth will be a curse against God. And God says, okay, do what you got to do, just don't lay a hand on his body. Scene 2, Job loses his property, the sheep, the cattle, the camels, the oxen. And then 7 sons and 3 daughters are killed in attacks and when a big wind collapses their house. And what happens? Well, we don't know about Mrs. Job, but that's a whole other sermon. But Job still praises God. So round 1 to God. Round 2, the adversary admits that God won that, but hold up, wait a minute. Has Job really suffered? I've kept my hands off his body. What say I have him suffer in his own body? No one will praise you when they're in pain and when their body betrays them, when living becomes unbearable. He will blaspheme you to your face. Want to test my theory? And God agrees. Just don't take his life. Otherwise, he is yours. So, to review, there's a cosmic wager, a bet. The God and adversary are gambling with the life of a human being, and Job is suffering for it. And what is a bet? Is that a good reason for anyone to suffer? No. So the text is very clear. Job is suffering for no good reason. No good reason. So we get to scene 3. Job's 3 friends come and they sit with him for a week. They sit Shiva, the Jewish mourning custom, such a psychologically wise custom that there it is in ancient text. They are so appalled by how they see his condition. He's covered in ashes and scraping his skin with potsherds, broken pottery. And they sit with him, waiting for him to say something. And they can keep quiet for a week. And that's great. Showing up is 90%. They stay by his side, they companion him, and they keep quiet. But then they have to talk. I guess they got tired of waiting for him to shape up, to get over it, because they have their answers for him. And what we see in this process is a new theology being birthed. The friends spout the platitudes of the traditional reliance on reward and punishment. Do good, do well, be bad, be punished. Cause and effect. Some people think of karma like that. So Job is told that it's his fault he's suffering. What did you do to bring this upon yourself? You must have done something to deserve this. Illness is a punishment for sin. It purifies us and makes us humble. Admit it, confess. And then they go on to defend their idea of God. God is just, therefore you must deserve this. Confess. If it's not what you did, at least it must be what you thought. And they throw their friend under the cosmic bus to preserve their belief system. Because that's the hardest thing to change, friends, sometimes. Your mind. So, and this is still with us. This is not 3,000 years old. This persists. Illness as a punishment for God. A friend of mine was asked, why did you choose cancer? And remember AIDS, when it began? The talk, which was the abomination, the attitude toward people suffering from AIDS. Fear-based. Some people find reassurance and safety by separating themselves from those in need. But Job now, back to the text, Job is blameless and righteous in his own eyes, and he has nothing to confess. Well, then they go on, they say, well, your kids must have done something. Otherwise, why would this wind come up and destroy that house and take your children? God, quote, dispatched them. Can you imagine saying that to anyone who has lost a child? Blame the victim theology. Her skirt was too short. He was wearing a hoodie, so. You lose a child, and that's what you are told. Abomination. The debates in Job illustrate the worst of religious bias, cultural prejudices, human nature, and these persist unto this day. Hurricanes, scapegoating. Job's friends are so attached to this belief system that they turn their back on him rather than change their minds, because to change their minds would risk everything they have staked their lives and their fortunes on. So Job becomes lonely, abandoned in his hour of need. And this book catalogs the futility of thinking that life is always fair. In the moments of despair, when he sees the whole pointlessness of his reliance on old beliefs, he is overcome by the scope of the injustice. And this moves from an academic discussion or intellectual debate. He is at his extremity now, and he reaches deep into his soul to try to tell his friends that he can understand why they're saying those things to him. Because he said, if I wasn't in this place now, I would be saying the same thing as you. But he knows also that he's a person of integrity, and he says, you are the voice of the people, but I have a mind and am not less than you. And his inherent worth and dignity rises up in his defense, and he can still reach for it. And what he realizes, what we realize, observing this, what we are invited to see, as these curtains are pulled away, is that these formulaic theologies are at best useless and at worst hurtful. And we are allowed to see his experience as our spiritual teachers, in case you have ever suffered unjustly. And here's Job's rant, his critique of that kind of God. You may have even said this yourself. What is this talk of God's justice? Robbers live long lives in their tents. Those who provoke God are secure. He pours disgrace on great men and exalts nations and then destroys them, deranges the leaders of the people, and makes them wander in a traceless waste. There's a little resonance there. There's this new reality within his soul, and he is demanding nothing less than the truth. Why is his question? Over and over, he wants to know why. Why do the wicked live on? Why does one man die in robust health, his pails full of milk, and another dies embittered, never tasting happiness? And then he cries out, I had expectations. Didn't we? Haven't we had expectations? And maybe you've lost some of yours. He says in his way, I expected that I would end my days with my family, comfortable, long-lived retirement, mortgage paid off, nice house, maybe a warm climate, not too hot, some money to travel with. But now I lost my house in the downturn, my savings is wiped out, my kids' student loans are killing them, these so-called tax reforms are costing me money, and now my skin itches. It's probably stress-related. My friends are dying, my kids won't talk to me, and this church won't do what I want. Job demands answers, and he will not accept less. But can he handle the truth? Can we? He calls on the most powerful aspect of his humanity, where he holds his love and justice, his conscience. And he says, I am not less than you. I insist on arguing with God. He becomes his own lawyer. See now, I have prepared my case. I will argue my case before him. In that is my salvation. Win or lose, as long as I have my day in court. And he is the complainant. Maybe you know someone like that who likes to argue. Maybe you've had your arguments too with life. Job may not get his way, but by God he will get his say. And maybe a new way can be made for the rest of us. So there he is, misunderstood, mocked, abandoned, bereft, covered in sores, and all he's got is his righteous anger. And so he thinks he's got nothing left to lose. And then finally, he's out of words. The text reads, "The words of Job are at an end." The words of Job are at an end. And then we get to peek into a new deep reality that emerges out of this tempest of human experience. The question this book asks, is there any way to make meaning out of this kind of misfortune? Is there a religious response worthy of life's deep injustices, unfathomable losses, unfairness, anything that can offer dignity, honest comfort, and strength in the face of Holocaust, slavery, ethnic cleansing, cataclysm, tragedy? Just stay with me, friends. Job wants to hear from God, and now God speaks, and he puts Job in his place. Who do you think you are? You have questions you want answered? I've got a few questions for you first. So let's hear the poetry, the majesty, the music. This text puts me in my place and takes my breath away at the same time. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundations? Do you know who fixed its dimensions, who measured it, who set its cornerstone, when the morning stars sang together? Have you ever commanded the day to break? Does the rain have a father who but drops? Can you tie cords to Pleiades, undo the reins of Orion? Do you know the laws of heaven? Can you send an order to the clouds? Can you dispatch lightning on its mission? Do you give the horse its strength? Do you make him quiver like locusts? Does the eagle soar at your command? He who arraigns God must respond. Would you condemn me that you may be right? We are so attached to our belief systems. God goes quiet. Imagine. Job silent, theologians silent, tempest stilled, the very force of nature silent, and the silence is shocking, more frightening than the tempest. Maybe it's the huge silence Neruda spoke of, one that interrupts our rants and rages, our sadnesses, our never understanding ourselves. There is no good answer to Job's question, why, because it's the wrong question in the sense that it is less than useful. And Job has a revelation, which word derives from the words, tear the veil away. He's had the veil torn from him, and he's blinking in the light and the learning of wisdom, and he speaks out of that revelation. I spoke without understanding of things beyond me, which I did not know. I will ask you, and you will inform me. I recant, I relent, being but dust and ashes. But he and we are not finished. He may be come out of dust, but it's stardust. And he and we have been gifted still with the breath of life. Job is still breathing, and he is learning wisdom. What is finished, though, is his argument with life. As we experience this cosmic time out, we see one of the most intimate conversations within a human being. When friends no longer understand, and when reason is exhausted, and when you're no longer pounding on the closed door of what is past, trying to hold on to what was and is no longer, you might lean on experience. You may even face and fall down to your knees from it all, the magnitude. But if you keep breathing, you might let yourself see what life is now offering. And it's just between you and your life, You and your heart, you and your mind, you and your God. Job now asks a different question. What now? There may be no good answer to why or why me, because it is not the helpful question. The question that we're all invited to get to, and it doesn't happen overnight, is what now? What now? What now when too many friends fall away, when your health falters, when people disappoint, frustrate, annoy, offend? How long do you have to press your case? Hold on to the injury? The only thing we can control is ourselves, and not even that all the time. We have witnessed a cosmic drama about how experience changes us, and we get to choose the changing into a more healthy understanding and a possibility of a new kind of wholeness, one that doesn't wall us off one from the other. That beautiful dependency. Ooh, frightening. Beautiful dependency. When we stop arguing our righteousness and we get over and beyond justice and law and learn wisdom, we fold love into the equation, which is bigger than justice. And the question that God asks Job, that the book is asking us, is whether we are able to love this imperfect, incomplete, filled with adversity world. Are we able to love it anyway? Are we, small as we are, brief as our lives are we able to love this world even when commanded to love? Not despite its imperfections or our own, but because it is less than perfect. And out of that bigger love, we learn that we have the power to repair and renew and restore ourselves and each other into a new kind of way of being, dependent. There are things we can change and things we can't, and we learn with a little bit of grace the wisdom to see the difference. So I'm going to finish Job's story, and I thank you for staying with this sermon this morning. Job relents and recants, and God critiques those friends. God tells them, I'm incensed at you, for you have not spoken the truth about me, as did my servant Job. And then God wants Job to pray for those friends so that they can repair their relationship and go forward. And Job goes home and begins again. And this is that poem at the end of McLeish's play, where Job's wife receives him at home on their threshold, and they have lost everything. The candles of the churches are out. The stars have gone out of the sky. Let us blow on the coals of the heart, and we will see by and by, we see Job's fortunes restored. Twice as much, it says. 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 oxen, 7 sons, 3 daughters. And in this text, back then, where women don't get names, we learn the names of his daughters. And this is how we know there's been this giant change of heart and understanding of faith within a human being who has been through it all. We go from sitting on the clouds with divine messengers at the start of this book, and we end in the most personal and humane miracle moment of life, the birth of a child, of a girl even. And these are their names that their father gives them. Jemima, which means dove. Keziah, spice tree. And Karen Hapuch, I think, child of beauty. Joyful names. just because he can. And he gave his daughters their own estates equal to their brothers. Amazing. Miraculous. By and by, Sam found his way forward too, over the next 2.5 years. And his words of blessing came from his love-filled heart. My hope for each of us here in this community and in the lives you lead wherever you find yourselves is that we may be able to say with Sam, to family and friends, and even this congregation or wherever yours is, thank you for your friendship and acts of kindness, great and small. You made it all worthwhile. Now it is ended. So may it be. Thank you.